The manufacturer of this digital microscope reached out and wanted to let me try out their Joyalens JL246S-M. I'm fairly choosy in what products that I review. I want to make sure that there's stuff that my viewers might be interested in, or that, of course, that I'm interested in, that will, help us with our DIY projects, electronics, any kind of repair things, tools, test equipment, things like that. And this is right up my alley. And I've actually been wanting to do a video on a digital microscope for a while, and I had one, a much cheaper one that I was planning on doing a video on, and then these guys reached out, and I had to kind of jumped on the chance to do it because it's definitely a step up from what I had been using. It was doing the job, but it just was not nice. This is compared to what I had, this is pretty nice. This one here, it's got a built-in display, digital zoom, from a remote control. It's pretty high resolution, as you can see here, 3 times digital zoom on top of the optical magnification. So, this is pretty nice. Let's take a look, and first we'll get in, do an unboxing and see what comes in the box and what you get with it. All right, let's take a look in the box and see what you get with this Joyalens digital microscope, part number JL246S-M. You get a component list, shows you what you get with the all the hardware, and then some quick assembly instructions. Complete manual. All right, so the whole thing front to back is in English. All right, so you get the screen. Here's your display with the protective cover. Feels kind of lightweight, not super high quality plastic, but what I would expect from a budget hobbyist grade product. Got one of the lenses in it. This is the A lens that's in it, but this assembly is the display and microscope all in one, and this slides in and out so you can rotate. Once you get it mounted in there, you can rotate the display to whatever angle works for you. Focus adjustment knob feels really smooth, actually. I wasn't expecting it to feel like that. It's got some resistance to it, and it's smooth. We'll see how well it works when it's in operation, but that feels pretty good. All right, let's move on. Get a USB power adapter. Remote control, which I am excited about because I intend to use this to actually video on to the unit with the SD card because it's got its own recording feature. But with this remote, you're not going to have to touch the display to turn it on, zoom in and out, and all that. You've got all those controls right from the remote control, so that's pretty sweet. A little box light. This is if you're going to use it for looking at slides. It's got a light behind the slide, so it'll light them up. I don't think I'll be using that much, if ever. Maybe just for experimenting, or let my kids check it out and see if they can look at some bugs or something like that, but that comes with it. Not sure exactly on that. Oh, and I did just figure out what this is. It's called a bug box. So apparently you can somehow, well, there you go. You can put a bug in there and then look at it with your microscope. Micro USB adapter. It's a micro USB for power, and I assume that would also plug it into the computer and the micro HDMI and an SD card slot. Got a 32 gig micro SD card. Some more hardware, some clips. This is to attach your slide to the base, and then there's some slides actually. It says pine stem, epidermis of onion, honeybee wing, honeybee worker leg, musca domestica, compound eye loading. No idea what that is. And little flimsy pair of tweezers for grabbing specimens, I guess. And the hardware, these little clips here are to mount to the base, and they have a little spring loaded so you can pull these up and hold down your sample piece. Here's 2 more lenses. This is an L lens. It says 90 millimeters to 300 millimeters, and a D lens, 4 millimeters to 5. This is going to be for really close-up stuff. Other than just playing around, I probably won't use that much. These other 2 lenses are probably the ones that are going to make more sense for me working on electronics. The packing is really nice. It's got some good padding and everything. Here's a USB to power adapter. This will power the thing. It's got power for the lights with this little barrel jack, and it also has a USB micro to power the display. And you can turn up and down the lights with this and turn it on and off. Apparently the power turns on and off the whole device. So if you push the power, it doesn't just turn the lights off, it turns off the screen. We'll play with that. Now here's the main hardware. It looks like those extra knobs are spares in case something happens to these, because one of these is the bigger one, and then there's a couple of smaller, there's a smaller one here that you could use for somewhere. This mounts to the vertical post. You got little thumb screws, and each one of these thumb screws, by the way, has a little kind of a plastic nub on the end of it, so you're not running metal into the shaft. You got a little padding on it. That's how you do some fine tuning. Once you get it into the rough position, you have to adjust the coarse position with these sliders, but then you can fine tune it with this. Seems pretty smooth. I would like it if this had more play in it. I think that's going to be kind of limited. It only moves, is that about an inch? Exactly an inch. It's got some lubricant of some sort in there. It's a little sticky. That slides in and out. It seems pretty smooth. I don't know how it'll feel once over the weight's on it, but it does move pretty smooth on that. Okay. And then you've got the main riser shaft. That's got threads on it, threads into the base. And this is a mechanical stop that you can put wherever you want to not allow it to go too far, so you don't accidentally come down and hit your piece. And then last, we got the main beat. Oh, I got one more thing here. Oh, this is your micro HDMI to standard HDMI to plug it into a monitor or a TV or something. And then here's the base, metal. It's got some weight to it, so it should keep it pretty secure. All right, so let's start out by putting the vertical shaft on it. We'll thread that in. Threads in nicely. Now let's put this on here. All right, so you slide that on the top of that. This one here lets you move it in and out. So that little thumb screw in the back does put some friction on this, but it doesn't stop it entirely. So you'll have to pull these screws out all the way to get that in. And then, of course, you'll want to make sure you don't drop the lens out of there. It slides out. It is keyed, so you can't rotate that lens. It stays right where you put it, so it lines up those little screw holes. They are metal. You're not screwing into plastic, so that's nice. So let's unscrew those. Oh, and it also has a little, it's keyed right here, and it's keyed right there, if you can see that. So you can only get it in, you can't get it rotated in the wrong orientation. So we'll slide that in, get it lined up with that key, tighten up the thumb screws, put these little screws back in. For now, we'll experiment with the A lens. I don't think you need to go super tight with these little thumb screws. That's pretty much it. Now we just need to power it up. For that, we'll go put it up on my workbench so we can get a better look at it. Okay, I've been playing around with this a little bit. I've got the A lens in there, and in order to try to get the maximum field of view, I've actually mounted the camera up a little ways. With it down where it's supposed to be mounted around the shaft of the microscope, I had a field of view of 82 millimeters with the A lens. Now with it all the way up, I've got 97 millimeters width. So you get a bigger work area, which is nice. One of the reasons I kind of did that, because I wanted to see how high I could get, because I've got a lot of room down here now to work, but I probably don't need that much room, but it gives me a bigger field of view. I might lose a little bit of resolution, but let me record this and I'll do a screen overlay of what we get. In order to start the video recording, you hit the OK button on the remote. The remote's pretty sweet. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can zoom in and out. So I'm going to start the recording, and then I'll overlay this. I've got the HDMI on one of my monitors over here, and you can just see the same thing. Resolution is nice. It's got several different resolutions. I'm just using the 1080p 60 frames per second. There is actually 120 frames per second if you drop down to 720p. I've got this focused. I've got a 97 millimeter field of view, and one thing I was kind of concerned about is if you did need to zoom in and out, because I watched a few old videos that other people have done these reviews, and one of the guys was really complaining about how this mechanism, in order to move it up and down, you got to readjust all this hardware. You can't just roll the adjustment knob here. Well, it's got a really nice zoom that you can do with the remote control. If I just zoom in, I can go 3 times zoom, and if I need to get a close-up of something, I don't need to move all the hardware. I can just do that. As you can see, and I'll overlay this video, that zooms in really nice. And I could certainly see that if I was trying to solder or something to any of these things. And that's with So I've measured this, and this is 12 inches from the base of this up to the base, to the bottom of the microscope camera. So I've got a lot of room in there. That's back to standard magnification. So I've got this moved up the shaft as far as it'll go, and I've got the camera moved up as far as it'll go. So with this hardware, that's as far up as I could get it, is 12 inches. And I can still focus with the focus knob. Let me drop on the other lens, the L lens. And at this same height, let's see what that does for my field of view and all that. So that is much more zoomed in. Let's refocus it. Wow, that's really zoomed in, and that's my field of view is not very big. Let me see if I'm zoomed all the way out. So with that L lens, the most I'm going to get is 27.5 millimeter width, and that's with this assembly as high up as it'll go. And you can see that's a pretty small field of view. And if I move this down, so now that's the little trimmer is all the way down. Let me refocus. Man, that's nice resolution. That sure is. And that definitely gets the colors back, so that it's actually a nicer picture with this lens. I just can't get that field of view. So if you need that bigger field of view, that 90 millimeters or so, you definitely need to use the A lens, but you kind of got to work with it for a little while and figure out what works for you and what you like. Looking at the remote a little bit, you can take a picture. There's a red button on here. I wonder if while I'm recording if I can take a picture. So I'm recording a video right now. Let me see if I can take a picture. Well, I don't know if it took it or not. A little icon popped up. Let me stop if I stop the video recording, and now I take a picture, you'll see that it crops the image when I take a picture. So let me show you that. Yeah, see how it chops off the edges? So your resolution on a photograph is not as big as the video resolution. Let me start the video again. One thing about, I don't know if I mentioned this already or not, but with this mechanism all the way up, the screen is actually pretty high. So if I was trying to solder, I don't know if I would want the screen that high, because I'm going to be soldering down here, but I'm going to have to be looking up at the screen, because that's a good 1.5 feet above the material that I'm working on. So I don't know if that's ideal or not. Let me demonstrate this real quick. So you cannot totally turn off the lights with this. That's the minimum lighting. Now I can turn them up, which is good, but I can't get them totally off. So if for some reason you didn't want any light on your work, you'd have to point the light somewhere else. If I push the power button on this, it actually powers off the whole microscope, so you don't want to do that. So you can actually get a good balance also, because there is a brightness on the screen. I'm recording the video still, so if I adjust the brightness on the screen up, so I get to the max, it then drops back down to minimum. So +2, now it goes down to -2. So you can get a good balance, using all these controls with between the lighting and the brightness of the screen. You can get this to look pretty nice. And then of course you got your magnification, so I could crank this way in. Now that I'm that far zoomed in, I could really get it close. There's my 3x zoom, so I'm really in there. Now this is pretty high res on the monitor. It does look a little bit grainy being that far zoomed in on my big monitor, but I could certainly use that. Let me zoom back out. And so it's nice right from the remote you can do all this, so you don't have to cause any movement of the microscope by pushing these buttons on here. But you got adjustments for the sharpness, anything you can do from this menu. Let me pop the menu up. I don't know if the menu will record, but actually I can't pull up the menu while it's recording, but from the menu you can adjust the sharpness, the contrast and all that. You can flip the image left and right, change it inverts the image. There's black and white, color. Oh, this bottom one here flips the image left and right, or up and down actually. Or I guess if you had your board the other way around and the part number was upside down, you could flip it over and see it. There's a little snowflake button on here, so if you have something going on, you can freeze frame it. So I'll move my hand here, I'll freeze frame it. Now you can see that it's stuck on the freeze frame. You can turn on crosshairs. So now it's got a crosshair on the screen. I'm assuming, I don't know if that'll record or not, I'm assuming it will, but we'll see when I play back the recording, see if those crosshairs are showing up. A whole lot of functionality to the remote, which I really like. It's a little fiddly when you gotta, kind of fine tune this. One issue I had initially was with the camera mounted where it's supposed to be, I couldn't see these things. So like the clips that are designed to mount your subject in, you couldn't even see that section of the board. With all this moved back as far as I could, what I could see was right over here. I couldn't see anything. Like if you had a slide under that, you wouldn't be able to see it. That's why I moved this thing up, and then that let me tip it out. If you had to move that much while you were working, it would be definitely a kind of a pain. For me, just my little bit of experience playing with this and trying to figure out how I would use it in a real world application, I'm pretty sure I would just get this stuff all set where I wanted it, and then I would just have to move my piece around, and I could zoom in and out with the digital zoom, and I don't have to really fiddle with any of that much. You could do some fine tuning of your zoom in and out with that, but it doesn't really move. You can see as I go in and out with that, it doesn't move it very far. Yeah, that's not changing the zoom that much. It would be nice if that mechanism had, 6 inches or so of travel, and then you could roll it up and down a lot more. You refocus here. I have noticed the focus, if you move it one way, it takes it quarter of a turn before you see any reaction from the actual focus. But it does focus in pretty good. And as I'm moving it, there's not a whole lot of movement. And I've even got this thing all the way up high as it'll go. So, any movement I'm going to see is going to be apparent. Pretty nice for a consumer grade, hobbyist. If I was going to have to use this daily as a job for commercial purposes, I don't know that this would be good enough for that. But, for occasional use as a hobbyist like myself for this kind of thing. So the only other electronic microscope that I've had any experience with was this little dude here. The only thing about this one I like better is it does have a pretty long mechanism for zooming in and out. You can see if this one had something like that on its knob, that would be a big improvement if I could move it that far, or at least that far, because this one only moves an inch. When I was measuring that, it only goes an inch either way, which isn't really that significant. If I could move it that far, 5, 6, 7 inches or so, that would be really nice. And like I mentioned earlier, this one's got the ring light right in the middle, and that always makes a glare. Almost every single time I've tried to use that, it makes a glare on your piece, and you just can't see it very good. With these lights coming in from the side, that's a significant improvement. One other thing I want to try is the USB capture. I watched one review, and he said that he couldn't do the video capture and see it on the display at the same time, and I want to see if that's still the case, or if they've done some kind of firmware update or something that allows you to simultaneously use this screen and the video camera capture to OBS or something like that on the computer. So let me get that set up, and then we'll now that I've plugged in the USB, it's given me the option to look at it as mass storage, which you can pull data off of the SD card, or I can switch it to PC camera. So let's go ahead and switch it to PC camera. All right, so I did take an old laptop and plug it in to the camera, and actually when it asked me about with this computer, when it asked me if I want to pick with mass storage or USB camera, when I select USB camera and I hit OK, it actually exits and goes back to this screen, so I can use the camera screen on it, and I can also see it on my laptop, OBS. So it does let you do it simultaneously. So apparently with my better computer, it's a driver issue or something, because this one just fired right up and it works immediately. I didn't have to install the camera software on this computer. I just turned it on, plugged in the USB, and it recognized it. All right, so what's my overall impression of the Joyalens digital microscope? I think for the hobbyist home user, it's definitely something you could get some good use out of. I certainly will. The mechanism, could use a little refinement. I guess my main complaint would be I wish this fine-tune knob had more travel in it. That 1 inch is not really doing much of anything for you. I found that I had plenty of room here. I had up to 12 inches if I maxed this out and I moved the mount down about to here. I definitely like the lighting. These articulated little arms move around. They stay put where you put them. And then having them coming in from the sides is really fantastic compared to what I'm used to with the other one with the ring light. The remote is a great option because you don't have to fiddle with the screen. You're not going to have to worry about the vibrations messing up your recording, and you can pretty much control everything from the remote control. I don't think that I needed to touch these buttons at all for anything I did. Definitely pleased with it. I'll get some use out of it. If you're interested, there's some links below in the description where you can find it. Thanks for watching.